Hey guys, it's Spacey Sims, and we are back with more Paradigm Paradox, continuing Tokyo's route. So, we're in Iota? Is that where we are? Wherever. I'm pretty sure this is Hyuga, so bingo. He's gonna come. He knows we're here, I think. Hey, Pio. It was my first time talking to him since last night, though he looked surprised to see me. A little bit early. It was a bit of a stretch to say it was morning, considering it was still dark out, but I felt bad that Tokyo had to stand guard all by himself, so I decided to come out as early as possible. Besides, it's not like I slept much anyway. After Tokyo left last night, I couldn't stop thinking about his smile. I was completely flustered, but there was no way I'd tell him that. Are you tired? I brought some coffee and snacks. Did you eat already, Spacey? My heart started pounding in my chest again after hearing say my name so warmly. I tried to respond as calmly as I could. Not yet. Would you like to eat together? Oh, let's sit down then. I took a seat next to... I can read. I took a seat next to Tokyo and pulled out a sandwich and thermos filled with coffee from my bag. Here you go. Thanks. You know, that's kind of funny. I never imagined we'd picnic while standing guard. And in another colony, too. We laughed together as the sky began to brighten. Speaking of funny, Taiki is a little odd, don't you think? Odd? I find him quite cheerful and friendly. Friendly? Pushy's more like it. He has no sense of personal space or privacy. Tokyo sounded like he was referring to something that happened. Did you see Taiki today? Yeah, I saw him as I was coming out here, so I told him about the night watch. We parted ways then, but he came back in the middle of the night. I told him to leave because it was dangerous, but he stuck around. He said if he were me, he'd be bored out here all alone. He also told me he had school during the day, but that he wouldn't get tired staying up. I then said it was fine by myself, but he wouldn't leave me alone. He's such a pain. Tokyo sounded annoyed, but I detected a hint of amusement in his voice. It's great that you get along with Taiki. Is it? I only really talked to Ayumu before, so I was surprised when you said you wanted... you wanted to be my friend. Stop biting my headset, bird. When Taiki says that he wants to talk more, then I'm fun to talk to. That's baffling to me. I was never interested in talking to anyone besides Ayumu. And so I thought that meant no one would want to talk to me. I was fine with that. But there are people who actually want to talk to me despite all that. Why? I don't get it at all. I wondered what would be the best thing to say, since he seemed so genuinely distressed. Tokyo only looks at himself through a calm, rational lens, but that means he misses what's important. You're a fascinating person, Tokyo. The people who really talk to you see that. You know about a ton of stuff I don't, so it's fun to listen to all your explanations. It makes me want to talk to you more. Also, you're a kind person. Like you're taking the night shift today. In an attempt to convey his good qualities, I ended up babbling about what he'd done for me. This is actually kind of embarrassing. It's like, I'm surprised you can say all that with it going all red, Spacey. Oh, I am, believe me. My face is burning up. I touched my cheek to emphasize my point, and Tokyo reached out a hand to me as well. You weren't lying. You are a bit flushed. My face turned bright red when he touched my cheek. I wonder why. It wasn't like this when I shook hands with Kaori. Maybe it's because it's my cheek and not my hand? Or because it's Tokyo and not Kaori? I don't know, but one thing's for sure. My heart is racing. I stood, unsure of what to do, but then Tokyo's expression shifted and he suddenly looked tense. Something's here. Huh? Tokyo moved in front of me as his eyes swept our surroundings. You're right. I sense it too. Something bad. Do you think it's a vector? A moment after I sensed it, we heard a familiar cry. Well, it sounds like a vector. Here they come! I followed Tokyo's line of sight and saw a couple of vectors hopping over the wall. Stop, bird! Do not attack my headset! You are being a bad bird right now. You can sit on my shoulder like a good boy, but you do not bite the headset. Good thing we're keeping watch. We should take him out before everyone else wakes up. Let's do it! I rushed to transform and flew in front of the vectors, blocking their path. Support Kaori, cast Augment. We always cast Augment. We always cast Augment. Every single time it's cast Augment for support, cast Augment. So it's probably cast Augment, but I want to be like, for difference, it'll be support Kaori just because every time it's support, it's cast Augment. So it might be like, oh, cast Augment, I guess. So it'll be the opposite. Yes, fucking opposite. Game. I'll watch the vectors to ensure they don't go into town while I support Kaori. I need you on backup. Keep an eye on those vectors. Kaori apparently had the exact same thought. I nodded in firm agreement. You got it. I'll slow him down. We fought for some time, but they only seemed to grow in number. They keep streaming in from the outside. People are going to get hurt if this keeps up. Right as panic began to take hold of me, I heard a voice that definitely wasn't a Vector's. What? You're already here? Hyuga! Told you. So he's been sending Vectors into Iota? Why? Now I understood. The Vectors hadn't retreated because someone was leading them. Why are you doing this? Iota's different from Theta. It has a smaller population and relies on Theta to send supplies. What's the point in attacking such a tiny colony? Why? What a dumb question. No, but it was a good question because you've never attacked any other colony in any other path, even in your own, you know? Vectors follow their instincts and go where the humans are. Doesn't matter how many there are, if they're poor or not. You're not like the other Vectors, though. You don't just act on instinct. You look human for the most part. You live completely differently from other Vectors. You must have a reason for attacking here. What's your aim? Just what are you plotting? Kaori's voice was sharp as a blade. Hyuga flashed a chilling smile in return. You're awfully calm and analytical for your age. Are you the one working with the lab? It almost sounded like Hyuga knew about Tokyo's true identity. I wondered what was going on, but Kaori's voice interrupted my thoughts. That's none of your concern. We're the ones asking the questions here, and if you refuse to answer, we'll strike you down. The conversation with Hyuga ended there, and Kaori prepared to attack. Ha! Sounds like you know the truth, eh? And if you're still going around taking out Vectors, then you're a garbage human. Kaori dodged his attack effortlessly, but Hyuga just smiled as if to taunt her. I assume you're doing this because you were ordered to. You're nothing more than a puppet. If you ain't got free will, then you're no different from the Vectors. What did he say? I wanted to know what Hyuga said to Kaori, but I couldn't let myself get distracted. Kaori was fighting Hyuga, so I had to deal with the Vectors myself. There's too many of them. Thank goodness no one's around. Oh, Taiki's going to be here. The director and the rest of the people in charge must have noticed the Vectors by now. I hope the reason no one had appeared was because they were all evacuating. Huh. Now the sound of footsteps dashed all my hopes. No, stay away! Yeah, I told you. Taiki, run! Taiki was right there. I remembered how he came to hang out with Tokyo last night. Did he come back because he was worried? Or did he not know what was happening? The Vectors reacted to the new person in the way no one would expect. One of the Vectors that had been charging toward me suddenly changed course. There was no time to hesitate. I immediately calculated who was closer, the Vector or Taiki, and took off running. I won't make it in time if I go for the Vector. I have to push Taiki out of the way. But before I could reach Taiki, I felt a sharp tug on my arm as someone jerked me back. Kaori! The moment I looked back at Kaori, I heard a gut-wrenching sound. Ugh! Taiki! Taiki had been attacked. He slowly collapsed to the ground. Why in the world did she stop us? Blood spilled from his motionless body. Why did you do that? Kaori still had a hold of my arm. When I turned to her, I saw that she had gone completely pale. Spacey, you need to run! Kaori's eyes stayed fixed on Taiki as she whispered to me. I looked over to him, and that's when I saw. Taiki's trying to get up? Wait, this is just like. His body was transforming. Right when I realized what was happening, the memory of that day came flooding back. When Lizzie turned into a Vector right before my eyes. No, Taiki, I knew this was going to happen. My brain was telling me to move, but my feet wouldn't budge. I couldn't look away from the scene unfolding before me. Hyuga had also stopped his attack. It was as if we were all suspended, intently watching Taiki's transformation. Run! Kaori's pain cry finally shook me from my trance, and the memory of that day receded to the back of my mind. Will Kaori have to take out Taiki if I run away? Just like what I had to do? I can't let her do this alone. The nightmare of that day urged me to help Kaori, and I made my way toward her. Fight together, cast augment, run away. I'm going to assume we have a save point here, because these are 3 good choices, so. Yes, well, there's usually, and then multiple, points where then this is because we're getting toward the end. So, you know what I mean? And then a 3-choice one is usually, we do 1 for the good end, 1 for the normal, and then 1 for a bad end. So, I'm going to say fight together, probably. It's probably cast augment for support, let's be real. But I feel like we should fight together since I made my way to her. I'm staying here to help her, so. Yeah, fight together, okay. I'm not running. I'm going to fight with you. I won't let you bear this burden alone. If this is the only way, then we'll defeat him together. Defeat. That word alone was like a dagger to my heart, but I couldn't hide from reality. It took all my strength to say those words, but Kaori understood. All right. Kaori and I were going to take down Taiki, though it would be more appropriate to view him as simply a vector now. The vector noticed Kaori before it saw me. Huh! Kaori dashed forward before the vector could start running. I followed right on her heels so as not to be left behind. I won't let Tokyo endure this pain on his own. I'm sorry, Taiki. Kaori charged energy into her fist using psychokinesis, and right before she released the blast, I held out my fist next to hers. The energy blast exploded, filling the entire area with a blinding light. Once the light subsided, all that was left of the vector was a small, sparkling flower crystal. Notice everyone's is a little different. Took him out without any hesitation, huh? Hyuga's voice was filled with disgust. When we looked up at him, he was scowling at us. You asked why we attack humans? The answer's simple. It's because we hate humans, especially people like you. Hyuga's eyes burned with hatred as they pierced through me. It was as if defeating Taiki had unleashed all his rage. We have to take Hyuga out first. We have a feeling things will get ugly if we don't. Right. However, right as we set our sights on Hyuga, a surprisingly calm voice interrupted us. Yeah, it was Moravia? My, how interesting. Moravia, what are you doing here? We looked over and saw Moravia sauntering onto the scene. Oh, I just had an inkling something interesting would happen. I'm so glad I followed it. Hyuga, I think it's about time for you to retreat. What? Why do I have to retreat? I haven't even done what I came to. You look dreadful right now. Hyuga clearly didn't want to follow Moravia's order, so she tried to assuage his irritation. What's that supposed to mean? Come on, it's all right. Let's get out of here. So Moravia's more powerful than Hyuga. He looks quite overwhelmed. Fine. All of you as well. Come along with me now. Moravia called out to the vectors that were about to run off. They all mysteriously calmed down, and the entire pack quietly left the colony. We kept a close eye on them as they retreated. Moravia brought up the rear, smiling and waving to us before disappearing through the wall. Was it okay to let them go? Yeah, I think so. We protected Iota, and handling those 2 by ourselves would have been tough for us. It's better this way. Kaori then stooped down to the ground. When she straightened up again, I saw the flower crystal glittering in her hand. We spoke with the director afterwards to report what happened and answer all his questions. The only area that incurred damage was near the outer wall, and the rest of Iota was unscathed. Repairs to the wall had already resumed. We had lots of other reports to send after the battle, so it was dark by the time we returned to our lodgings. I took a shower, but I don't really feel like eating, and sleeping isn't in the cards either. I'm sure Tokyo's even more wrecked than me right now. He had to fight after staying up all night, and then the director thanked us for keeping the damages to a minimum. A minimum. That's not how I see it. and I know Tokyo would agree with me. Taiki had family and friends. They certainly won't think his disappearance is a minor issue.
Are you awake?
There was a soft knock at the door, and I heard Tokyo's voice. He sounded utterly dispirited. I am. You can come in. Tokyo swung open the door and entered, carrying 2 mugs.
I make coffee. Would you like some?
Coffee sounds great. Thank you, and, would it be okay if we talked for a bit? I figured it'd be far worse for either of us to be alone. Tokyo nodded in agreement.
Yeah, I wanted to talk too.
Sit wherever you like.
Thanks.
We sat down next to each other and fell into a long silence. Tokyo had said he wanted to talk, but now he just stared down at his mug without saying a word. I want to ask him something, but I know how bringing it up will be painful. But we couldn't stay silent forever, so even though I was nervous, I posed my question. Tokyo, why'd you stop me back there? You pulled me back when I tried to shove Taiki out of the way. Why? Tokyo answered after a short pause, though he kept his gaze averted.
If I hadn't stopped you, the Vector would have hurt you instead, Spacey.
But I had my powers. I could have pushed Taiki out of the way and then fired off a counterattack.
Not at that range. Your attack would have been too late.
But because I didn't push Taiki out of the way, Pain seized my heart again as I said those words. Taiki had turned into a Vector, just like Lizzie. I trailed off at a loss for words. Finally, Tokyo looked into my eyes with his steady, quiet gaze.
In that moment, I thought the Vector was going to kill you, so I just moved without thinking. I know it was selfish of me, and as Kaori, our leader, it was a mistake. I ended up sacrificing an innocent person because of it. But as myself, as Tokyo, I couldn't stand it. I just couldn't bear to see you get hurt. But I still hurt you in the end. I knew that if you saw Taiki turn into a Vector, it would remind you of your friend. And you'd suffer all over again. Well, that's when I knew would happen from the second I pulled you back. And that's why I told you to run away. Why didn't you?
Tokyo had been incredibly honest with me, so I told him what I was really thinking about during the battle. I thought you'd suffer if you had to take down Taiki by yourself. That's why, when I saw what had happened to him, I thought it'd be worse for you to be alone than for me to be reminded of Lizzie. We can only do one thing about Taiki at that point, so I didn't want to leave you by yourself. I couldn't let you suffer alone. After taking in what I said, Tokyo quietly asked me a question.
So you were thinking about me in that moment, not Taiki.
I was also thinking about him. I feel like the right answer is I was just thinking about you. Yeah, okay. Come on. Yeah, that's right. All I could think about was not letting you fight Taiki on your own. Because I knew it would cause you pain. Tokyo smiled slightly when he heard my answer.
You're so ridiculous. I told you before that I can fight any Vector, even one that used to be my friend.
I don't want to pet you or let you snuggle with me because you bit me very hard before, and it still fucking hurts. He keeps, trying to crawl to wherever my hand is and trying to, peck at me, to pull me up to, make me pet him or snuggle him, and I just really don't want to because he bit me so fucking hard before on my thumb, and, it still fucking hurts. You bit so very hard, it still hurts. You're not nice. Just shoving his head under my thumb and shoving himself against me, trying to get me to pet him and snuggle him. And it's I don't want to. You's mean bird. Fine. I'll do it because you're cute, but you's very mean. If you bite me again, I'm going to take you and chuck you over the banister. And I keep chucking you, even if you come back like a boomerang. A birdarang? Doesn't matter. I'll keep throwing you down. I'll throw you over the banister until you stay down because you're mean. Don't look at me with that cute little face. Peeping at me, being adorable. You want petties, but then you bite because it pokes your pin feathers. You're so nasty. Anyway.
The same goes for Taiki. I could have handled him by myself. So you should have just thought about yourself and gotten far away from there.
I don't think you're as okay with this as you say you are.
Why do you think that?
Because you look like you're about to cry. Tokio might have been smiling in that moment, but tears prickled the back of his eyes. My heart went out to him.
I'm not upset because of Taiki. I actually felt happy when you said what you did, Spacey. Just a brief moment of joy, because you thought about my well-being the same way I thought about yours. And then I hated myself for feeling that way. I killed Taiki, and yet he wasn't the first thing on my mind. So if I look like I'm about to cry, it's because it made me sad to realize that. To realize what a horrible person I am.
Tokio smiled as he said that, which made it all the more heart-wrenching. I couldn't help but reach out and grab his arm. You're not a terrible person, Tokio. And if you are, then I'm the same. I didn't consider Taiki first either. All I could do was think of you. It felt like I was facing something ugly within myself. I'd been running away from something since that fateful day, and now it rose up to greet me. The hand that grasped Tokio's arm began to shake.
No.
Huh? Oh, look at our adorable hug. Look at our adorable hug, CG. It's so precious. He's so beautiful. Tokio swept me into his arms before I knew what was happening. I slid perfectly in his warm embrace, a deep sense of comfort washing over me. My heart rate slowed as I began to calm down. When I heard Tokio's soothing voice,
Spacey, you and I are completely different. I finally understand what you've been going through since you were forced to kill your friend. You must have been thinking that you killed her out of selfishness. Well, that's not true. Spending time with you has shown me what a kind and considerate person you are. So you don't have to associate what happened today with what happened back then. Everything that led to Taiki becoming a Vector and everything after is my fault. You're not to blame.
It was as if Tokio's words slowly sank into my heart and healed my wounds. Mr. Kuromori claimed Tokio didn't understand others' feelings, but right now that was the furthest thing from the truth. That's why I'm convinced Tokio is affected by Taiki's death. He truly understands how I feel. I can't imagine that he doesn't think anything about what he did. Tokio said he felt terrible because what I told him made him happy. But that feeling and what he thinks about Taiki are separate. They only knew each other for a short while, but Tokio seemed to genuinely enjoy being friends with Taiki. And then Tokio had to kill him. There was no way that didn't affect him. That's my 2 cents, at least. But I guess he hasn't realized it yet. He told me he didn't understand how others feel, so that might mean he's insensitive to his own feelings as well. But I also didn't think this was something I should try and make him realize. Instead, I wrapped my arms around him and squeezed back. Aww.
I knew you were a kind person.
Those words alone couldn't tell me if Tokio recognized his own pain or not. Oh. Hold up. When did I fall asleep? Oh, we fell asleep together! I flew into a panic when I saw Tokio was sleeping next to me. Did I just fall asleep after our conversation? I hadn't imagined either of us would have been able to sleep, but I guess exhaustion got the better of us. Plus, the warmth from Tokio's embrace was very comforting. I wonder if he felt the same way. I looked at Tokio as he slept and got the sudden urge to touch his hair. His hair's got a little curl to it, and it's sticking up a bit, and it looks so soft.
Good morning.
Yeah! Right as I was about to touch his hair, Tokio's eyes shot open, startling me. But Tokio didn't even notice and just lazily stretched his arms out.
I guess I fell asleep. Did you sleep well, Spacey?
Oh, yeah, I slept fine. Tokio doesn't seem fazed by this at all. Though not much fazed Tokio in the first place. He was just acting like his regular old self, which made it feel like yesterday was a dream. But it wasn't a dream. There's no denying that. I wished it were a dream, though. Tokio spoke up just then, interrupting my thoughts.
Your phone's flashing.
I looked over to my phone sitting next to the bed and saw that I had an email. It's an email from the commander. Did you get one too?
Yep. He says they sent more personnel from Theta. They'll be arriving today. And that they'll be replacing us.
Before we came here, the commander said he wanted this to be an opportunity to change ourselves. We have changed over the past few days, but I don't know if it's been for the better. I'm definitely closer with Tokio, but I've also started to feel something new. And yet at the same time, I've made an irreparable mistake. I sacrificed a life. That left an indelible scar on both of us, so in that sense, we did change. I wish I could have just been glad we came here.
Let's get packed up. This is actually great timing.
Whereas I felt down about the situation, Tokio seemed surprisingly positive about it. How so?
I don't want to pretend that incident with Taiki never happened. I'd like to make it up to him. I can't do it here. I have to get back to Theta as soon as possible.
Tokio was always thinking one step ahead, which made me feel like I could rely on him. Sounds like you have a plan.
Yeah, but I can't tell you right now. I'll let you know when the time comes, though.
I don't want to pretend like nothing happened either. I'm not sure what Tokio's got up his sleeve, but I want to help any way I can. Not just help, but atone for it. A few days after returning from Iota, I hadn't seen Tokio since we got back. He's not in his room either. He might not even be coming to school. I tried contacting him once, but he just said he was busy doing research. I thought it'd be best to wait for him to contact me, but maybe if I tried one more time.
Would the Secret Fivesome please come to the garden?
The commander's voice sounded cheerful over the speaker.
The Secret Fivesome! You know, that's not so secret when you say it like that, buddy.
He doesn't sound urgent at all. Maybe it's not an emergency. But if he's summoning the blooms, then that means I can see Tokio. I wanted to make sure he was okay, so I hurried to the command center. When everyone arrived, we were informed that they called us in early thanks to Santa's foresight.
The image I saw was clear this time, so there's no mistaking it. The Vectors will infiltrate from outside the research district, not far from here.
I see. That's why we're on standby.
It's nice to have time to spare. You've notified the people in the research district, right?
Yes, but we haven't issued warnings to the other districts yet. We'd like to avoid unnecessary confusion, so we want you to stop them there.
Understood.
Hey, where's Kaori? Did she contact you? Ryu and the commander arrived a while ago, but Kaori still wasn't there.
She didn't contact me, but... look, here she is.
Sorry I'm late. This isn't like you at all. You look tired. Haruka was right. Kaori's face was paler than usual. I moved toward her, concerned. Yeah, you do. Have you been sleeping enough?
I've been busy with research, but I'm getting enough sleep. You don't have to worry.
Her pallor begged to differ, so I wasn't going to stop worrying anytime soon. Maybe I shouldn't have waited for Tokio to contact me. Once this mission's over, I'll ask him what he's researching and how I can help. Looks like they're here. Rhea was keeping an eye on the security feed and alerted us to the Vector's presence. We refocused our attention on the mission. Shall we?
Let's do it!
Kaori looked a little concerned. There weren't that many Vectors this time. We fought them off as usual, figuring we could easily stop them from entering other districts. I was worried I wouldn't be able to face them because of what happened with Taiki, but it turns out I could still fight. Kaori's acting strange, though. Her attacks lacked their usual oomph, so I hurried over to her side. Kaori, what's going on? Are you tired? Or is it because of Taiki? I was concerned she was freezing up like I did before, but Kaori just shook her head. Oh, is her powers going? Because I was kind of concerned. I'm like, obviously, I feel like our relationship is blooming here, but like he doesn't seem to be losing his powers. So I'm like, maybe he's a special case. I would assume. Well, we were born this way, but like we don't know that. I mean, we don't really know anything, to be fair, about Tokio's past aside from an Ayamu's. He's the one that told us. So, like, it's weird because we haven't gotten any Tokio story from himself. But I was also thinking Ibuki could be special like us and not lose his abilities when he falls in love. You know what I mean? Because more Vector than human, but, like, we don't really know. We know Ayamu's story, like, parents injected themselves, like, fetus, you know, type of a thing. You know what I mean? Like, did experiments when he was in the womb, basically. We don't know that, like... I mean, we're just assuming That's basically what Tokio's parents did as well, but
No, that's not exactly it.
she's in no state to fight alone. I have to back her up. Take the lead, cast Augment. Probably cast Augment, because this time to help her powers. Oh, it's another save file. Okay, then who knows? One's gonna kill us. I only have one hand, because the bird's in the other one. No, let's take the lead. Sweet. I'll take point, Cowardly, so just back me up. Cowardly started with surprise at my suggestion. Are you sure? I'll be fine. As long as you're with me, I know I can do it. I tried to stress to her that I wasn't overextending myself, and she seemed to understand.
All right. I'll cast Hypnosis and you can go on the offensive.
Got it. All became quiet once the last vector fell.
We did it!
We certainly did. Moreover, the vectors only managed to attack here. And that's all well and good, but Kaori, are you all right? Though the mission ended without issue, everyone was thinking about the same thing. We all turned to Kaori and saw she was out of breath.
I'm fine. I'm just not in peak condition.
It's more serious than that. Fighting alongside her showed me she was tiring quickly. I couldn't help but worry about her.
You look like you were firing on all cylinders, but this mission wasn't that taxing. Maybe you're still tired from that mission in Iota. How about you?
I think I fought as usual, to be honest. Kaori's comm rang as I was speaking with Haruka. I assumed it was the commander. Once the call ended, Kaori's face hardened with determination.
You're all dismissed. I have to speak with the commander about something, so I'm going back to the command center.
Ooh, report obtained. The next day, I tried to contact Tokio after the battle, but he said he was going to bed. I'm awfully worried. I want to talk with him, but where could he be? I headed to Tokio's classroom and lunchtime rolled around, but he wasn't there. Yeah, he's trying to avoid us to stop the feelings. That only leaves one other place. I hope he's here. I opened the door to look inside and immediately found Tokio. I knew it, but is he sleeping again? Oh, same CG of him sleeping. When I moved closer, I could make out his gentle breathing. It reminded me of the morning after we'd fallen asleep together in Iota. His hair's all messy again. I wonder if he'll wake up if I try to touch it. Still snoring. I reached out to touch his soft hair, but unlike before, he didn't wake up. He's really out. He must be exhausted. I waited a little longer, but Tokio showed no signs of waking up. I started to get anxious. Lunch is almost over, so maybe I should wake him. Tokio, time to wake up. I don't think I would have woken him up. Tokio?
Huh? Spacey, what are you doing here? Am I dreaming?
Yes. No, this is reality. Time to wake up. Tokio was apparently still half asleep and reached out to touch my hair.
Huh, you're really here.
Tokio continued to stroke my hair as if it were proof of my existence.
It's so calming to have you next to me.
Okay, he's acting a little weird, but maybe he's still waking up. His soft, gentle gaze was so arresting, I didn't know how to respond. But his hands felt so nice running through my hair, I wasn't going to brush him away. Well, it feels surprisingly good. I suppose he can keep doing it for now. Oh yeah, she's definitely 100% in love with this man. Just then, Tokio spoke up, though he didn't stop stroking my hair.
I think my powers are going away.
What? Why? I was completely taken aback, and Tokio stared intently at me as he posed the next question.
None of your powers changed at all.
This is so sad. I hate this part. This is like the same thing with Ayamu, you know what I mean? Where he's like, what about yours? And you're like, no, my powers are fine. And he's like, I love you. Anyway. And then you're like, okay. And? You're like, yeah, I like you too. And like, but like, she has no fucking clue what they're asking. Oh, it hurts. Like, it does, because he's over there, my powers are going away because I think I'm falling in love with you. How about you? Or how are your powers? And she's like, I'm awesome. better than ever. And he's like, ouch. And, like, because she has no clue, and then, like, they also don't know that, well, Tokio, I think, would probably be the best one to know that you're special, but nobody else would. So it's kind of like, you're like, oh, it must hurt them a little bit. How so? I didn't understand what he meant, but I thought back over yesterday's mission. Nothing strange happened then. I don't think they have. Upon hearing my answer, Tokio moved his hands from my hair to my cheek. The warmth from his fingertips left a trail of heat on my cheek. My ears grew hotter by the second as Tokio continued speaking, though he sounded disappointed.
Your face feels hot, but I don't think you feel the same as me.
What do you mean, feel the same? I had no clue what he was talking about and was starting to feel embarrassed as he traced a path along my cheek. Then he abruptly stopped. Oh, don't, though. This is killing me.
Anyway, my powers are fading. I think I'll lose them completely at this rate. Well, there's something I have to do for Taiki before that happens. Will you help me?
Something for Taiki. When I heard those words, I realized that this was what Tokio had been researching all this time. Of course I'll help. I need more details. No, of course I'll help. Yeah, okay. I don't need details. Of course I'm going to help you. I would do anything for you. Of course I'll help. I responded without hesitation, and Tokio smiled.
Thank you. I need another person's help as well. Well, it's more like I want to tell them first.
Who's the other person? Though I had a sneaking suspicion I knew who it was.
Ayamu. I want him to know before I put my plan into action. He's my best friend after all. He needs to know what I'm thinking and why I'm doing it. Come back here after class and I'll tell you then.
All right, I'll be here immediately after class. Sounded like a complicated plan from the way he talked about it. I'm worried about him losing his powers, but if that's true, then he has to get this done quickly. Anxiety and confusion gripped my mind as I headed to my afternoon classes. He's like, he's like, your face is all hot and you're embarrassed, but I don't think you feel this. Oh, God, him with glasses again. He's like, you don't feel the same about me. And it's like, but I do. I absolutely love you. I'm just special. Once school let out, I headed to the chem lab and found Tokio and Ayamu already there. You two got here fast. Did you not go to class or something?
My last period was just study halls, so I got a head start.
Same here. I've been worried about Tokio, so I came immediately when I heard he wanted to talk.
The way Ayamu said that reminded me of Haruka. Haruka was worried about Kaori the whole time yesterday. From what I saw, Tokio had barely spoken with Ayamu since returning from Iota.
I'm ready to get started, but first, I just want to clarify something. Ayamu knows what I told you about Haruka's true identity.
Oh, that's right. This is the first time I talked with Ayamu about him being Haruka.
It's not the easiest thing to talk about, even if you know. In any case, I know what's going on, so you can just talk as if you're speaking with Haruka.
Okay, sure. I wasn't sure I'd be able to talk to him that way with him right in front of me, but I figured being less formal would be a good start.
Okay, let me tell you what happened in Iota, Ayamu.
Tokio proceeded to summarize how we met Taiki in our battle with Hyuga.
I see. So you saw someone turn into a vector again.
Yeah, I'll get back to that point, but I want to discuss Hyuga first. I started looking into him after we got back.
You did? I've been quiet until now, but I couldn't hold back my surprise at this bit of info.
That's right. Didn't what he said bother you, Spacey?
What he said?
Sounds like you know the truth, eh? And if you're still going around taking up vectors, then you're a garbage human. I assume you're doing this because you were ordered to. You're nothing more than a puppet. If you ain't got free will, then you're no different from the vectors.
Yeah, that was a strange thing to say. I didn't really understand what he was getting at, but it sounded personal, like something had happened in his past. That's the best way I can describe it.
That's how it sounded to me, too. Felt like he was aiming at all his hostility directly at me. He seemed different from previous fights.
In other words, Hyuga thinks the blooms are connected to the researchers' more unsavory activities.
Exactly. That's why I decided to investigate the research district. I also use some unorthodox methods.
Hold on. What do you mean by unsavory activities? Are the researchers doing something they're not supposed to? The conversation had suddenly gone in a dark direction, so I felt I had to ask. Tokio turned to me with a determined look in his eye.
Well, there are certain things you don't know about, Spacey, but I'll tell you. Some of it I found during my research. Other things we purposely hid from you. I'm gonna tell you everything.
All right, go ahead. I braced myself for what Tokio is about to say. Hold on, I gotta itch my eye and I only have one hand.
Some of the researchers' work can be made public. It has to...
Can't be made public. I was like, wait, what? Yeah.
It has to do with the blooms. From what Hyuga said, it sounds like he knows a lot about it. And my theory...
Oh, I don't know why I thought that was going to be Ayamu because he moved.
My theory is that Hyuga used to be a researcher here.
You can't be serious. Well, we know that's true, so.
Yeah, I am. I went through the research district's past directories. I also used hypnosis on some researchers who have been here a while to find out more information.
Ah, so that's what you meant by unorthodox methods. You're skirting a line, Tokio.
Ayamu heaved a sigh, but Tokio defended himself.
I didn't have the luxury to choose. That was the fastest way to carry out my plan. And the risk paid off. It's just about a sure thing someone resembling Hyuga was a researcher in the past.
So Hyuga knows the dark truth, then?
That's what I think.
You want to fill me in on this dark truth? It was shocking to learn that Hyuga used to be a human researcher, but it felt like we were getting closer to the real issue. I was determined to learn the truth, no matter how heinous it was, but what Tokio said went beyond anything I could have imagined.
There's a research team whose main goal is improving the environment. The blooms are actually a part of that. I don't imagine you knew about this.
This is the first time I've heard about it, but how do we help the environment? We mainly fight vectors.
Because our missions originated from that research. And then the Environmental Improvement Project changed its objective.
The switch had already happened by the time Ayamu and I were born. Environmental improvement's just a facade. What they're really doing is genetic research.
Genetic research?
In other words, instead of changing the environment, they've shifted focus to creating humans who can adapt to the current conditions.
I mean, again, we know all this, and it makes fucking logical sense. You know what I mean? Not with unwilling human subjects, but it makes sense that it's going to take way too fucking long to readapt the environment to something you can live in. Why not adapt humans? But it definitely brings up that ethical dilemma of, but then you have to do research on human subjects, and or if people are volunteering, do they know what they're getting into? Are you explaining all of the information to them? Or are you basically doing it the way they're doing it and like, well, people, human experimentation, they're just prisoners, nope. And you've basically got, like, lab rats, people lab rats, you know? So, the concept and the idea, yes, absolutely makes sense. Adapt humans because it's going to be a hell of a lot easier than getting an entire fucking planet back in fucking order. But ethical and moral dilemmas with doing that, and they're obviously not doing, you know what I mean? So, that's a lot of questionable stuff there, so. Is that possible? There's no way anyone could survive out there. Saw with my own eyes, but... Wait, we can go outside? The thought struck me so suddenly I blurted it out without thinking.
That's right, which means we're part of the results of that research. Though we aren't perfect specimens, we have to transform in order to go outside, and there's a time limit.
Plus, everybody, well, the only research subjects that they have are guys, and they gender swap, so that's not exactly a side effect most people are going to be cool with. And you don't know if women would, I'm special because I was born like this, so different. But haven't done this experiment on any, normal girls to know if they also gender swap.
Well, there are other creatures who can live outside the colony without any of those restrictions, right?
Tokio's line of questioning helped me connect the dots. The vectors.
Correct. The researchers' work in genetic engineering led them to create the vectors. Could have been an accident at first, but now they're doing it intentionally.
They've gone too far.
Ayamu, you didn't know? Ayamu shook his head.
I didn't. Tokio and I knew they were conducting genetic research. Sana, Mocha, and yourself acquired your powers. Tokio and I were born with them.
Oh, we don't know that I acquired them. Okay, well, I acquired them, but also could have been, but I was born from people. I still think those were my parents. So I'm a special exception. Was I really born with them? Or did I really acquire them? You know what I mean? Or, yeah, if I had never gotten attacked or scratched by a vector, it never would have happened. I would have been fine. My powers would have been dormant. But I got attacked by a vector, so... But I'm definitely different than, like, Tokio and Ayamu were injected as fetuses, so technically born with their powers, but not born with their... You know what I mean? Like, it's not like my parents were two people with powers. Again, I still think it's them. Okay, I still think that's the case. That a researcher, probably the professor, let escape. They had a baby, me, so I would have dormant powers. That's like what you would think born with powers. Ayamu and Tokio didn't get their powers genetically. Their parents basically injected fetuses in the womb with powers. So yes, they were born with them, but they weren't conceived with them, basically. You know what I mean? You didn't have powers, and you wouldn't have had powers if your parents hadn't fucked with fetuses. Okay? So you're technically also genetic experiments. Seina and Mocha were given injections and were experimented on later in their life. Okay? So technically, you were both experimented on, just at different stages in development. We don't really know when they say... Well, Hyuga was attacked and then was given some kind of antidote, and so he only developed so far. Yukonami and Ibuki were born in the lab, but were they actually the same as, like, Tokio and Ayamu, or we don't really know. We don't know, how, when they were, quote, born in the lab, what does that mean? You know what I mean? Were they injected in the womb to be created like this? Are they totally 100% test tube babies? Do they inject actual babies they kidnapped from people? We don't really know. They were just raised we don't know. So, because Yukonami just says he was born in the lab, and it's like, but what do you mean? But they never explain what they mean by that, so.
So it would be more accurate to say that we are the fruits of their research. However, we didn't know that they engineered the vectors. Looking back, it should have been obvious to us. We can't blame ourselves. They purposely hid it from us, too. Besides, you have more important things to take care of, Ayamu. Yes, you're right,
sister. Ayamu looked down. I was curious as to what he meant, but I had more questions for Tokio first. You didn't know either until you looked into it?
That's right. I was too focused on my own research into bettering the environment. When I was a researcher myself, I should have questioned where the vectors came from much earlier.
I mean, to be fair, if you think about it, you're like, I should have questioned it. It's like, I mean, if you'd stop for a second, instead of blaming yourself, what would your logical conclusion be if you were like, the vectors, where did they go? Oh, well, fucked up environment outside is probably some kind of weird genetic mutation, or some kind of, monster that was created from the radiation out there, or if people stay out too long, or, you know what I mean? There's a ton of logical explanations, aside from the humans made them. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Technically, we would have made them at any rate, because I'm pretty sure we made the environment as shit as it is out there. But, creatures and animals and things that might live out there might have adapted and become vectors. So that's the assumption in your head, is not, oh my god, they're doing human experimentations, vectors used to be human, oh my god. That's not the way your brain would normally go. Unless you're a conspiracy theorist, I suppose. You'd probably be they somehow adapted, some kind of animal turned into this freak of nature and whatever. You know what I mean? A new species of animal roams out of the woods. You're like, holy shit. What the fuck? Where did it come from? What must have, crossbred some animals or something? You don't automatically think, humans created it in a lab. It's not your first thought. You know what I'm saying? And with how crazy the environment is, you're like, something adapted out there. Because you don't know how long the vectors have been out there, and then they only found you. You know what I mean? So, I can understand why he didn't make that assumption or question it, because it's anyway. Especially because you're too busy with your own, but when somebody brings it up, you never stopped and thought, you're like, well, now that you mention it, I guess I should have, but wasn't my first priority, you know? So, although Tokyo always wants to find... Tokyo would be the one to try to figure it out first before anyone else, I suppose, but...
In any case, I decided to investigate what Hyuga said and went from there. And I finally confirmed everything yesterday. I created the vectors. Even the commander admitted it had been kept classified.
He did? I shouted in surprise, but then realized it made sense that he knew, since the Blooms were a part of this whole thing.
What he didn't know about Hyuga possibly being a former researcher. I think he might have suspected it, though. I couldn't find anything conclusive about Hyuga, but my guess is that something must have happened when he was here. I suspect there was an accident during an experiment that turned him into a vector.
Yep.
Considering all that, what he said makes sense.
And I like that they don't really tell you, like, some kind of accident turned him into one. But they do kind of tell you, in a way, I'm glad we did Hyuga's first, because we know kind of all of this. This is other sides of what he told us. But we found out more about Hyuga's story from him versus hearing it from Tokyo and then Hyuga being like, yeah, I was a researcher and this is what happened. It's like, oh, it was a little more of like, you were a researcher? Okay. Then, hearing it from Tokyo first, so.
He wasn't expressing hatred toward us, but rather the people above us, meaning the researchers.
Hyuga despises the researchers. I mean, we know he's got good reason. I can only imagine what Hyuga was thinking. But besides his obvious disdain for humanity, I also remembered how he changed after seeing what happened to Taiki. He acted strange then, too. Perhaps his reaction had something to do with what happened to him when he worked here, because he's remembering his transformation. Yeah,
All right, we're caught up to speed now, but you haven't told us what you're planning to do about it.
Wild theories had begun to fill my mind, but Ayumu's question snapped me back to reality. That's right. Let's hear this plan of yours. Tokyo responded swiftly and without hesitation.
What happened to Hyuga and Taiki is fundamentally the same in my eyes. The researchers are going to continue creating vectors, which means there'll be more of these kind of tragedies. This vicious cycle will just repeat itself over and over. That's why we have to put an end to it.
It's one thing if they created a bunch of vectors and then kind of shoved them out of the colony, and then now we have Hyuga, Yukonami, and Ibuki kind of attacking with the vectors and whatever, and like, oh my god, then we gotta stop them and whatever. But it's the fact that they're like, no, the Blooms will just kill the vectors. Don't worry about it. While they're then like, we killed 10, and they're like, well, we just made another 5. Chuck them outside. And yeah, that's fine. The Blooms will take care of it. You know what I mean? Like, no sooner did we just pick up the trash off the beach, these motherfuckers just dumped a whole load back on the beach. What the fuck? Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're constantly literally picking up their trash. I hate the poor vectors that used to be human as trash, but that's basically how the researchers are treating them. Like, that's a failed experiment, chuck it out in the garbage, and then we're taking out the trash, and no sooner do we clean it up than it's like, no sooner do we clean up this highway than some asshole comes along and chucks their McDonald's garbage out the window. What the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, really? I mean, that makes them seem douchier than just, like, the fact that they're just doing human experimentation, which is shitty to begin with, but it's like, okay, we've accepted they're horrible people, but then it's like, wow, you just keep getting worse. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're expecting us to protect you when this is not, I made this problem, I chucked it outside, and I'm hoping it'll go away, and then it's coming back to bite me in the ass, and whoops, covering myself, having the Blooms protect me. You keep adding to the problem. That's what makes it worse. You didn't accidentally create 100 vectors, and now they're breeding or whatever, and you're hoping that the Blooms will take care of them. You made 100 vectors, you're like, the Blooms will take care of them, and then you just keep adding more and more to the pile. Like, what the actual fuck? Like, holy hell, Bag of dicks. Anyway.
You're planning to attack the researchers.
Yes. We'll go to the research district and do something about them. I'll go even if you try to stop me, Ayumu. I'm not telling you this because I want to be talked out of it. I'm telling you simply because I want you to know.
Do you think I can just sit back after you told me all that? Ridiculous. I know you'd never give up no matter what I do. So I'm gonna lend you my support. Someone has to make sure your plan works.
I'll help too. This might be the only thing we can do for Taiki. And for Lizzie as well. I want to end this cycle for all of them. I briefly wondered if I wanted to do this for my own self-satisfaction. But even if that were the case, this will prevent what happened to us from happening again. And I knew that that was the right thing to do.
Thank you. Now that I have your support, I'll ask the Commander and Rio for help as well. And I'll talk to Sena and Mocha. I know we can't force those two to help, but they're a part of this, so I hope they'll come with us.
That works for me. But how are you holding up? You've been acting strange since yesterday. Wasn't it the main thing you talked to the commander about?
That's right. Tokio said his powers were fading. Will he be all right? Tokio nodded confidently, despite how worried Ayamu and I clearly were.
I'll be fine. I can hold out until we finish this at the very least.
The bigger question was, how would it end? Worry gnawed at the back of my mind, but I found myself unable to say anything. I actually do think that this, though, if we're going to go fight the man, in this is going to kind of almost end a little bit better to transition. I guess technically, yes. This would have transitioned very well into us defecting and going to the Vector side because, you know, we're about to fight the man and do all that. But, sorry, I know we're almost, I'm going to go a few minutes, but the bird is getting a little restless, and I just tried to get his pin feathers out. Now he needs a potty break because he's been holding it for an hour, but you know what I mean? Like, they would have this would have been the route that leads into, you know, going down and siding with the Vectors then. So it kind of perfectly transitions in, which we already did 2 of them, but whatever. I'm glad we did because Yukonami and Hyuga weren't really for me. I don't think they were that bad, but Yukonami, I don't know about that. Hyuga wasn't bad. I don't see the romance there. There really wasn't, but still, it was a decent, interesting route, I guess. But I kind of preferred these two, so I'm kind of glad we saved these for a little bit later. Anyway,
that's why I'll be heading over to the research district.
The next day after school, Tokio gathered all of us, Sena, Mocha, Ayamu, the commander, Rio, and myself, to explain his plan. We couldn't use the command center for obvious reasons, so we met in the prep room in the chem lab. We weren't on a mission, so Ayamu and I hadn't transformed. Sena and Mocha listened to Tokio's too brief summary and couldn't hide their shock.
Hold on now. Genetic engineering? They created the Vectors? Oh goodness, I think I'm getting a headache. Learning about how people turn into Vectors was shocking enough, but now you're telling me it was all done on purpose? It's very difficult to believe. Or perhaps I just do not want to believe it.
I understood how Sena felt, painfully so. There was still a part of me that wanted it all to be a lie.
Well, the more I think about it, the more it makes sense. The researchers aren't exactly the most trustworthy bunch. Besides, I'm not surprised the commander and Rio kept it from us. You two were always a bit sketchy.
Everyone turned toward the commander and Rio after Mocha said that.
Ouch, Mocha. Harsh, but true. I don't care what you think of me.
The commander smiled wryly, while Rio's expression didn't change at all. They must have known exactly why Tokio called us here.
I don't blame Sena for being skeptical, which is why I asked the commander and Rio to come. That'd be great if you could shed some more light on this whole thing.
The two of them didn't flinch, being called untrustworthy. The commander then assumed a more serious expression and faced us.
I suppose an apology's in order. I sent you out on missions while concealing this info from you. But please believe me when I say I was trying to protect you. See, I do believe that, though. Had you known the truth, you might have pulled a stunt like Tokio's doing right now. Even if you didn't, just knowing would have put you in danger. Tokio, you're essentially proposing to go against the higher-ups, which means Theta itself. Do you understand that?
Of course I do, but I'm not asking y'all to do the same. I want you to think about it. But I can't give you long. I'm gonna put my plan into action tomorrow at this time, so come back here if you want to join me. I already know the commander and Rio are coming with me, since they don't get a say in the matter.
So I can't refuse. It's our fault for hiding the truth. I was gonna fight either way, so it's fine by me.
I spoke up after the commander and Rio said their piece. I already said so yesterday, but I'm in. I want this all to end.
Me too. And there was never any question. I won't let Tokio do this alone.
Sana spoke next after a short pause.
Allow me to think on it. I'd gladly lend a hand if it only affected me, but if the plan fails, certain people in my life could be in danger. Considering that, I cannot make a snap decision.
I'm going to think about it too. There isn't much of a reason for me to say no, given what the researchers are doing. But I got something I have to do. It'll cause a lot of trouble if the plan hinders that.
That's only natural you'd be hesitant. If you decide not to join, just forget about everything I told you.
While Tokio showed he understood Sana and Mocha's situation, they each gave a troubled smile.
It would be quite impossible to forget. I won't be able to continue doing missions as part of the Blooms at the very least.
Seriously. Speaking of, have you thought about what's going to happen to the Blooms? Mocha glared at the commander and he gave a short nod.
Of course, the Blooms will disband if the plan's a success. If it fails, I'll still protect you. I'm not sure you have much faith in my words at the moment, though.
The jury's still out. I'll have to think about that as well if I'll join in your plan.
May I ask one last question?
After Mocha's exchange with the commander, Sana raised a reluctant hand.
Sure. What is it?
Why are the three of you not transformed? I've been wondering this whole time. I know we're not in the middle of a mission, but still.
It's partly because she knows about our identities, so there's no reason to hide them. And the other reason... Well, Tokio should explain it. I plan to address this too. Simply put, my powers are fading. I could disappear completely at any time. Hopefully I didn't transform today. I don't know how much it'll help, but I want to preserve my strength.
So that's why you didn't seem 100% during our last mission.
That's right. You two should take my condition into account as well. My plan involves me using hypnosis, so my chance of success is really 50-50. However, if you can't abide by what the researchers are doing and want to stop them, I certainly hope you'll come with me.
Tokio's determination came across loud and clear as he made his appeal to Sana and Mocha. They both took in his words, and I know they must have felt it as well.
I understand. I shall come tomorrow and let you know what I've decided, no matter what. Mocha, how about we discuss briefly after this?
Mocha gave Sana a small nod in response. It sounds good to me. We're gonna get going now.
All right. Hope we see you tomorrow.
The two of them peeked outside to make sure the coast was clear before exiting the room. Once they left, Tokio let out a small sigh. You did a great job, Tokio. Is there anything I can do to help prepare?
I'll need you to cast Augment tomorrow, so you should just rest up and get plenty of sleep.
That's it? All he wants me to do is sleep? The commander jumped in then to explain.
A rest is very important, you know.
By the way, have you noticed any changes to your powers? Changes? No, not that I'm aware of. Speaking of, didn't Tokio ask me the same thing? I thought back over the past few weeks and came up with a possible theory. Did something bad happen in Iota? Something that affected Tokio's body, which led to him being unable to use his powers, and that's why you're asking me too? The commander hurriedly waved away my hypothesis.
No, that's not it, but
how do I put it? Maybe it's best to say it's just bad luck for Tokio. Bad luck? I looked over to Tokio, confused by what the commander meant, but he just looked down at the floor glumly.
It's bad luck for him because he's like, it just sucks for him. He's in love with you and you don't feel the same for him because my powers should be declining too if I felt the same. It's so sad. Oh, it hurts a little.
Tokio refused to look me in the eye, so I turned to Ayamu for an explanation. But all he did was cast a troubled glance my way without saying anything. Rio, on the other hand, just kept his eyes closed, seemingly uninterested in the whole affair. At least he was consistent. I don't get what you mean. I turned back to the commander in hopes he'd clarify, but he only patted me on the shoulder.
Well, you don't have any issues with your powers, so it's fine.
I just go home and rest up for tomorrow. There's clearly no point in pressing the issue further. All right, but please let me know if you need help with anything, Tokio. I know you came up with a plan, but I want to stop the researchers as much as you do. So just let me know.
I know you do. I'll be sure to ask you immediately if I need help, Spacey.
Okay, I'll be waiting then. I was reluctant to leave, but I had little choice. Oh. Anyway.
Is this... Oh, I really hope I was going to be like, I'm pretty sure she's in love with you too. It's weird she's not losing her power, but I think, don't be sad. You know what I mean? Oh, anyway, we'll find out, and we probably get our ending tomorrow, so I will see you guys next time. Remember to give the video a big thumbs up and subscribe to see more.